Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today as we talk about the upcoming WWE Royal Rumble. 10 days away. It's going to be here before you believe it. I can remember sitting at home watching some clips of Monday Night Raw a few weeks ago when the Rumble was about a month out, feeling like it was forever away, and WrestleMania was even farther. What we're going to be talking about in today's video is the surprise returns that the WWE always tends to bring out. Over the past few months, since the Royal Rumble was named to be returning to San Antonio in the Alamo Dome, I've made a bunch of videos about just about every rumor that's come out. But I can honestly say that almost every video that I've made about somebody returning at the Rumble, other than Samoa Joe making his debut, I don't think is going to happen. I really think that this year, if there's any surprises, I don't think there's going to be anybody from WCW. I don't think there's going to be anybody from the quote-unquote Attitude Era. Legends are sort of always sort of a mixed bag of who's going to be there. They've used guys like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, a few too many times. I know that Hacksaw won the first ever, Royal Rumble, but that thing was forever ago. And it honestly doesn't make sense that they keep pushing him out there. To go out there and try and win one more for the big one. A guy like Bob Backlund, who's been in the mix in WWE, but I guess you can say sort of lost his meal ticket with Darren Young having his injury. I don't really want to see him go out there either, but you know that he's crazy enough. He's not as old as Mae Young was, but he's pretty much just like Mae Young was, where Vince or somebody could go to Bob and say, hey, we need you to put the trunks on. We need you to hit the ring and basically do the bushwhacker entrance where you come in and you go right out, like Titus O'Neil or the Warlord or, anybody like that. In and out, cash your paycheck, hit it to the back. Over the past few months, when they really said that the Royal Rumble was going back to the Alamo Dome, I hit it hard that they were talking a lot about Shawn Michaels, and they were talking a lot about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Tell the history of the Royal Rumble in the Alamo Dome, and, Shawn Michaels beating Sid, as well as Stone Cold Steve Austin winning his first ever Royal Rumble, battling it out with Bret the Hitman Hart and Vader, and all of those guys that were in the Rumble itself. I don't want to believe it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I listened to his podcast. He said for himself, that he went to hunt at his ranch. He went to go take care of the ranch for deer season. He said that he started getting lazy. There was a ton of stuff to do around the ranch. He didn't really feel like driving to the gym, and he's back in LA, and now he's got to hit the gym, and he's out of shape. He's got to get in there, and he's got to hit the weights. He hasn't done it. So he's pretty much said on his podcast that he's not ready to go. I really believe that WrestleMania 32, him coming out there with Shawn Michaels as well as Mick Foley taking on I forgot what those guys' names were. The League of Nations. That's probably going to be the last appearance that we're ever going to see him. I don't think that he really wants to get in there and wrestle. And you can tell by his lack of appearances. He came out there on the Monday Night Raw, I believe it was in Los Angeles, and gave an introduction for The Undertaker to come down there. I really felt like WWE had to, pull, just pins and needles out of his arm to make him want to go out there and do that. I think that he's fine with stepping back from professional wrestling, and I don't think that he really wants to be that much involved in it. I think that he's got enough side projects with his shows on CMT that I don't think that he wants to do it. Shawn Michaels has said that he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. When he retired, he wanted it to be his retirement. He did come out there. I believe he hit a Sweet Chin Music. I think that he drank a beer. Might have set somebody up for a Stone Cold Stunner at WrestleMania 32. Being in the Rumble isn't really wrestling in a match. He could come out there. Maybe he could super kick Kane out of the Rumble to basically seal the deal of him keeping his record of most eliminations if he hasn't lost it already. I know that Kane was coming up close. Kane might have already broke it, so that might not be a story that makes sense. Or maybe Shawn eliminates a few people to get the record back. hits a few sweet chin music, knocks a few guys out, then gets bumped out. And then, of course, everybody knows Sean's going to give you what Sean gives every time is, nah, who gives a shit? I tried my best. It is what it is. I probably wasn't going to win the thing in the end. But when it comes down to guys debuting from NXT, the big rumor is that Ty Dillinger will make his debut on the main roster, coming out at number 10. We've seen in the past that just because somebody is in the Royal Rumble, it doesn't mean that is their true debut. Rusev got a number in the Royal Rumble, and then he didn't debut on SmackDown for almost well over a month. And when he came up, he had the full-on Russian gimmick. He had Lana. It was like they took the time to put him on the main roster, and then they sort of fine-tweaked him to get him to the point to being 100% ready. Bo Dallas won the Battle Royal to go into the Rumble. I believe he eliminated Wade Barrett. Then they set up a whole deal where he was going to fight Wade Barrett for the Intercontinental Championship. I guess they thought that it wasn't ready for him to be moved up to the main roster. They pulled it all back. They canceled the tournament. They canceled the match, and that was it. He stayed back down there. He had a run with the NXT Championship and improved himself. I mean, he's still on the main roster. I can't remember the last time I saw him on Monday Night Raw, but he's still got a job, and it is what it is. So, Ty Dillinger being in the Rumble at number 10 makes sense, but for me, Ty Dillinger, I love the guy. He's fun. I think he is a really good wrestler, but he hasn't won a lot of matches. That's why it doesn't really make sense to me that he's going to get moved up. He hasn't really got a push. He's got over, but he hasn't really gotten a push in NXT, so that doesn't make sense. Samoa Joe has done just about everything that the guy can do. He's lost the NXT Championship twice. He was the first two-time NXT champion, I believe. It makes sense for him to get bumped up. I don't know where you put him, Raw or SmackDown. He's going to make an impact either place. People thought maybe he was a little bit wishy-washy for him to come from NXT and go from TNA and come to NXT. But I think he's ready. I think that honestly, Samoa Joe, if anybody's going to be a surprise, I think he's the biggest lock. Some people say that he's injured right now, but he's had a lot of time off since that cage match, and I haven't really seen him doing anything or heard about him wrestling on any house shows for NXT or the main roster. So we'll see where we go from there. Returning legends doesn't really make sense. You've got Kurt Angle, just got named for the Hall of Fame. Doesn't really make sense for him to be a future Hall of Famer and then also be entered into the Royal Rumble as well. I don't think WWE really wants Angle wrestling, so that would kill that off. Anybody from WCW really wouldn't make sense. With Goldberg having his huge run this year, maybe if you could squeeze something out, if there was anybody that had, a feud with Goldberg that would be remembered, where he could come in when Goldberg was in the ring and they could battle for a minute and they could have sort of a mini match and Goldberg could eliminate him and then they could ride off into the sunset. But just about the only person I think you could do that with is Kevin Nash. And, Kevin Nash made a big impact when he came in during, I believe, the 2011 Royal Rumble, Pop of the Night. But when they used Kevin Nash in the Royal Rumble, I think 2 or 3 years later, there really wasn't that huge impact because he was a guy that we'd seen, since then. Of course, then he also had that angle with Alberto Del Rio, cashing in the Money in the Bank, taking the CM Punk out, then setting up a match with CM Punk, then never having the match against Punk, turning the storyline into Triple H versus CM Punk, and then rolling that into Triple H versus Kevin Nash at the end. I don't know. If I had to bet, I think Samoa Joe is going to be in there. If I had to bet that anybody's going to be in the Rumble, we haven't heard anything from Shelton Benjamin since he was supposed to debut on SmackDown when they were bringing in all of those old names because they had split the rosters and they needed to put some depth on it. But they've got tons of guys. I don't see why they need to go out there and get anybody. It's always fun when somebody does come out. It's just, I don't think there's going to be anybody that you can see. There'll probably be the rumors that they come out from people hanging out at the airports or hanging out at the hotels, slipping the names out. But hopefully they'll be smart enough to hide these people get them on the bus, and then bring them out right before them. We don't know, because that's when it's really, really fun. I can't wait for the Rumble. We'll see what goes down, but I talked a lot about these past guys in their past videos, so hopefully you guys will check those out, and we'll see where we go from there. Peace out, everybody.